this particular idea, which is the what are they calling it? The Great
Great reset.
Reset.
Yeah.
The Great Reset. Now, when I first saw this trending on Twitter, I was like, "Well, this is creepy." Um, and then someone shared with me this video. Now, I want to show people this video from Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, before I let Glory dig into that. But because I want y'all to look at the weird way that Trudeau presents himself. Weird, unnatural, not really in good Trudeau fashion. You know, he's pretty much known for being a smooth operator. You know, I hate the guy, but he's he's
And for
he's a white
blackface
Canadian
too.
Obama. Okay, um, and he's even more dangerous because he's white. So, but let's check out this little clip really fast.
Building back better means getting support to the most vulnerable while maintaining our momentum on reaching the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the SDGs. Canada is here to listen and to help. This pandemic has provided an opportunity for a reset. This is our chance to accelerate our pre-pandemic efforts to reimagine economic systems that actually address global challenges like extreme poverty, inequality, and climate change.
So, that looked very rehearsed, almost as if he had the lines beforehand, and that he was told to say this very specific thing. Two things that, of course, stood out to me were we have a great reset opportunity for a great reset, but also he said the Build Back Better line that we even heard the Biden campaign throwing around. And not only just in like debates and in speeches, but in his ads on Hulu, which I kept getting, even though I was literally never going to vote for that man. But can you give people some background as to why, what the hell is this Great Reset, and why do you hear people quoting the same line? Obviously, not just in the United States for the quote unquote president-elect, who isn't really the president-elect, but keeps telling himself that. And now we're seeing it from the Prime Minister of Canada, who isn't going anywhere anytime soon. And we've even heard it at some forums. So what's going on with this Great Reset, Glory?
Yeah, well, the Build Back Better slogan is spearheaded by the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab. The Great Reset, like, there's this like misconception that the Great Reset is like a conspiracy theory, but it's really nothing close to a conspiracy theory. It's literally an agenda that's been spearheaded by global elites, by people like Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Justin Trudeau, Boris Johnson, like leaders all around the country, and especially people in the World Economic Forum. The Great Reset was literally on the cover of Time magazine. There's like ads sponsored by the World Economic Forum all over it. And essentially what it is the elites being open about the fact that they're using this pandemic as an opportunity to restructure basically the way society is. Klaus Schwab is a really wholesome individual, to say the least. He has a lot of time. Like, not only was he born in Nazi Germany, which, like, ironically, Nazi Germany was eugenicist itself, and he also has eugenicist tendencies, given the fact that he's openly like talked about straight up designer babies and like, you know,
Oh my
genetically
God.
modified children, and he's talked about tons of weird stuff like that. And he's written about the Great Reset and the Fourth Industrial Revolution so many times, and every time it's it's spearheading this concept of stakeholder capitalism and a fusion of technology and, you know, humans, essentially, and just building these infrastructures and creating these algorithms that really kind of toy with our lives, and building the algorithms and like technology to really engineer society in a way that's like weirdly transhumanist, and to build the
Is
infrastructure.
there ever a situation where transhumanism isn't weird?
Yeah. Well, not to global elites, not to Mark Zuckerberg and Klaus Schwab, because like to build the infrastructure for this fourth industrial revolution, they're doing just like absolutely disgusting stuff. Like Mark Benioff, who owns Time magazine, he's like planning to spearhead an initiative for like deep sea mining, which is just absolutely disgusting and an absolute like unbelievably imperialistic nonsense, because eventually they'll run out of resources to build the infrastructure necessary for the fourth industrial revolution, so they'll have to turn to the fucking bottom of the ocean to get it. And they've sold out stakes in the bottom of the ocean to mine this, which conveniently, after I learned about this after reading a Cory Morningstar article, I went to see if Sunrise said anything about this. And, unsurprisingly enough, Sunrise has not said anything about deep sea mining, despite the apparent catastrophe it would be for like deep sea organisms.
I got a problem with that, bro. I live in Miami. I need them to get this shit together. I don't need nobody deep sea mining the damn thing.
Yeah, I can't, like, if there is a statement that Sunrise has made about deep sea mining, then I haven't seen it, or because it must be hard to find. And it's just appalling that more people aren't talking about this, because it's really going under the radar. And especially, of course, Mark Zuckerberg is involved in this as well. Facebook has a To Africa initiative, which wants to put a subsea cable encircling the whole continent of Africa, which is like,
what?
It's some Conference of Berlin nonsense, where they're planning to essentially digitally colonize Africa and put subsea cables all around the continent and bring them internet when they still struggle from like colonization and wars and just like sanctions and bombs from Western countries. But hey, it's okay because they'll have internet. And they really want to use like Africa as kind of a grounds to roll out these new algorithms and surveillance mechanisms, and really look at
really trying to surveil. They're really trying to surveil. You're really trying to surveil China, because China over there turning Africa out. They getting all that money in Africa.
Yep.
So I looked into the statement, or any statement from climate, or from Sunrise Movement, and you are correct. So far, they haven't made a statement. A statement made by a major organization, I think it was Greenpeace. That's like, and even that statement's kind of like milquetoast. But interestingly enough, there have now been articles out. October, around the time I would say I've started seeing the Build Back Better slogan and the Great Reset being thrown around. Now, this article actually, the title of it says, to fight climate change, should we mine the deep sea? University of South Florida is trying to find out. And they said that the opponents argue that rushing into deep sea mining risks destroying the pristine wilderness, killing species that have lived free of human intrusion for millennia, literally. And they say miners would disrupt a habitat that might hold other value for society, potentially home to microbes that fight diseases in untouched sediments that have trapped carbon pollution. So all the things that we are familiar with, and not to mention the fact that the sea life is already, like, I think we're about to be a third of all sea life is about to be extinct already.
Yeah, well,
getting into biblical times here, people, just letting y'all know.
Yeah. Well, because of overfishing, a lot of major fish populations, like sea bass and orange roughy, they're already at just 10% of what they were hundreds of years ago. And there's also the fact of mass coral bleaching and coral reefs just dying because of overall climate change and just all kinds of stuff around the ocean as well. And now you also have bottom trawling and dredging, which absolutely ruins the substrate of the ocean. And if we ball up all of those bad effects and then add 50 pounds of dynamite to it, that's what deep sea mining would be essentially. And no one's talked about it because it's really going under the radar. And they've already sold stakes to oligarchs over which parts of the ocean they're going to get to mine, despite the fact that oceanographers haven't even properly mapped out the bottom of the ocean. So it's really awful stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I get it. The ocean does have untapped potential, but like you just said, bro, it's so bad that like we haven't even properly mapped the ocean because it is literally that deep. It's like hundreds of thousands, not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds and hundreds of miles of like as deep as we think we've even gone. I don't think we've actually gone as deep as we think we can. Like just from that perspective, there are probably crevices in the ocean, under mountains, like just a bunch of different areas that we haven't explored yet. And for us to immediately think to ourselves, we have zero idea who lives there. We don't know exactly what the ramifications will be. We have actually no idea if this could be a net positive for anybody but the people, the bankers, and those who own the bank accounts. But yeah, let's go ahead and sell that land off anyway. Let's make promises to investors that we don't even know if we can keep. But at that point, once again, then you are incentivized to fulfill that investment regardless of whether or not it is safe for the rest of the world. And that's where we're getting into dangerous territory. And so you're correct on the Sunrise Movement. They haven't said anything about this. Surprisingly enough. I guess I should say unsurprisingly enough. They did post a cute little video yesterday, though. They did post a cute little video of a girl talking about telling Joe Biden to keep his climate change promise. What climate change promise? To not ban fracking? To not give up fossil fuels? To not convert to... What's his promise was to have hundreds of thousands of greenhouses.
Yeah.
Whatever that means. Do you know what that means? What does that mean? I don't know.
No, I'm sure it's up there with Elizabeth Warren's green drone strikes.
Oh yeah, I don't know if it's up there because Elizabeth Warren was bold on that one. She was like, "Watch this! I can literally say anything, and people will be like, oh my God, Elizabeth Warren's so progressive," and she was right. Elizabeth Warren, except for the one thing I said, I was telling people back then. I said, now y'all know the one thing Elizabeth Warren can't do is mess with that white man, because it's over for her if she does that. And see, when you've been living in this racial patriarchy for a while, you know some things. You know some things. You can predict some things, and you just kind of know that like white women's power stops where the white man power begins, and that's just what happened. And Elizabeth Warren felt the flames for that. Like she felt it immediately. Did not think
the
it would
white
go down
savior
like that.
complex. The white savior complex in the progressive movement is like such a problem, and it plays into this as well, where like they're unwilling to confront the fact that like oligarchs that Joe Biden serves have plans to digitally colonize Africa because they just have like an untapped obsession with throwing any black or brown country under the bus to advance, Medicare for all, because like every single time someone would raise the question of, oh, well, we don't want to become like Venezuela. It's like, oh, no. We don't want Venezuelan socialism with their brown people and
Yeah, that was crazy. I couldn't believe you said that.
We want some of that good Scandinavian socialism. That's what we want. And like,
that Canadian socialism, that good old Canadian Scandinavian socialism. So the kind that doesn't get involved with or doesn't get destroyed by U.S. imperialism? Is that the kind of socialism you want?
Yeah.
I mean, we'd all like that kind of socialism. But
yeah, we want that imperialist Medicare for all.
Exactly. And like, basically what they're talking, it is not a coincidence. You're talking about Venezuela having the fourth largest supply of crude oil in the world. Bolivia being close to that and having being part of the lithium triangle. We didn't work hard to at least before recently install a Chilean leader that we could trust, and then we've kind of always had Argentina, like in one form or another. They've always been loyal allies to us, and then of course you got Bolivia that we try to control. So we're basically, by the way, I think if we didn't overthrow, and once again, I think we just lost Chile, right? We just lost Chile. I think their president just resigned or something, right?
Yeah, I think so. Well, and they also have massive protests all throughout the year.
Chile be having protests once a year, bruh. Like once a year they in there turning up. We need to be like Chile and Honduras and Bolivia. That's what we need to be like.
We need to be like all the Latin American countries. It's like all of these progressives, when the movement towards socialism party was elected, they were like, see, look at Bolivia, you can vote out fascism. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? The Bolivians put their bodies and their lives on the line to protest for months and months on end for free and fair elections.
Exactly.
Here, you can't even question the sanctity of our elections without getting gaslit out of your fucking mind. Like, are you kidding me?
Oh man, you said it perfectly. You said it perfectly. Exactly. They put their lives and their bodies on the line. And by the way, and that wasn't just something that started months ago. That happened before Evo even got in, that they were advocating for free and fair elections. And because of how important it was to their democracy, Evo worked side by side with both parties, or with all the parties, I should say, and listen to them. And he was able to sit back, pull up a lawn chair, sip on his Kool-Aid, and be like, I'm not stressing y'all. We got it. Don't worry about it. Because that's how damn secure their system was. And you know how it got that way? Because the people demanded it instead of pretending like election fraud doesn't exist. Right? Mm-hmm. Like, it's crazy how the same people will be like, they rigged it against Bernie. Okay. They rig it against, or we rig other countries' elections. We lie about Iraq. We lie. I mean, hell, the former directors and FBI directors will come out and talk about how much we lie. And they don't trust CNN, rightfully so. They didn't trust MSNBC, rightfully so. Don't trust Fox News all that much, rightfully so. And despite all of that, people are like, yeah, but we could totally trust the elections. Well, who owns the systems for that? Same people who own Fox News, same people who own CNN, same people who own MSNBC, same people who put people into these administrations, the same people who hire these lobbyists, the same people own all the same shit. So if you don't buy it in one scenario, you shouldn't buy it in other scenarios where it's more obvious. If anything, it's more obvious in this particular scenario with election fraud as far as this Trump-Biden situation is concerned. And the first thing that people say is, I know we're going off on a tangent, but first thing people say is, oh man, what's the proof? Bro, yeah, it took Tim Canova months to get election fraud proof. The question should be, or not the question, the statement should be, well, let's take it to court and figure out where the proof is. Let's take it to court and figure out what the proof is. And if there is proof, then we should behave accordingly.
And let's at least like ask for some transparency, because you can't even do that without getting like, oh, you're such a right-wing conspiracy grifter. Like, come on, really? Mask off. I knew you were a right-winger this whole time. And it's like, really, we can't even demand for transparency. It's like, you're willing to admit that thy holy Saint Bernard was cheated because, oh, the white man finally got cheated. But like when Angelica Duenas and Maria Estrada and like Jen Perlman and Tim Canova and like and Tulsi and like so
Maria
many
got cheated in real
people.
time. Maria Estrada's race is crazy because the person basically admitted, yeah, she was cheated. None of this should have happened. But, you know, we don't really got time to go back and deal with the details. Literally said that at the California Democratic... Hold up, were you at K-Dem? Were you at the California Democratic Convention? I feel like you were.
I was in... No, I didn't go there.
Okay.
No.
I feel like you're everywhere, so... But yeah, like in Maria Estrada's case, it was very, very flagrant. They admitted to it on camera. Pasta got it. And they just, all he could say was, well, you know, it's too late for that now. So we see things like Operation Warp Speed. We see things like this whole, you know, Great Reset, and then the World Economic Forum pushing this. And then you hear Biden echo the same sentiments, word for word, Build Back Better. What does Trudeau say? Build Back Better. Economic Forum. Go to YouTube. They say it in their little ad. And yet you have zero idea what it's about. Well, no, they're telling you what it's about. They're telling you literally every single leftist policy, leftist advocacy that they're about to co-opt. They're telling you climate change, poverty, quote unquote, and technology or lack thereof.
Well, yeah, and Klaus Schwab So not only does Klaus Schwab have a whole book out titled The Great Reset, but he's also said himself that like they're looking towards, youth movements for causes such as climate change to really spearhead their initiatives. And that's where Sunrise plays in. And that's why I am particularly, pissed off that Sunrise won't talk about deep sea mining, because they're making it even more clear that their co-opted movement really plays into this, and so do other co-opted movements, because that's what these people are looking at. They're looking at these, milquetoast social justice movements to help spearhead their initiatives to push the transhumanist agenda. And it's like, we need to be able to step back from organizations and say, okay, I very clearly support this cause, but I don't support this organization because maybe I shouldn't trust an organization funded in part by a George Soros PAC.
Largely funded by George Soros. I couldn't believe that when I was reading when Robbie put that article together. But they are like it's very clear when they started taking his money. It's fucking obvious when it was. Like, we know that Tulsi invented the All Fossil Fuels Act and is actually the best on climate change in all of Congress, maybe in congressional history. But we're gonna give her a D, and we're gonna give Warren a B minus, even though she's never introduced climate change legislation. When she finally did come up with a plan, it was really to I guess make the military more green. Like it was for green bombs. Yeah, that's what she suggested. And we're gonna give her a B minus.
Let's go.
And it was very evident, like, and that's what kind of bothered me too. I was like, oh no, because I was like, for the most part, the Sunrise Movement has been really good until a couple of years ago. Working Families Party was better than average until a couple of years ago. Cold Pink is still a little bit better than average, although they even during the election were kind of, I don't know if they were riding the wave to get more fundraising, but they even were pretending as if Elizabeth Warren was like side by side with Bernie on foreign policy.
Yeah.
And that Tulsi was like an F.
They pretended that like she wasn't the best on foreign policy, and it's like the thing with Code Pink is they also got a bad case of TDS, so it's like
but the thing is, their founder, which is why people have to learn to kind of separate sometimes the nonprofit organization in the United States from the founder of that organization. Medea Benjamin has actually been pretty supportive of a lot of what Tulsi has said and done, and advocated for like those pieces of legislation to end those wars, Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, etc., because that's what Cold Pink was founded on. And Medea Benjamin also is very big about not succumbing to TDS when we're talking about the realities of foreign policy. Like, yeah, he's not the end all be all. And where we should challenge him, we need to challenge him, which she's obviously led the organization to do that. But Cold Pink and her seem to diverge when it comes to Trump being the only problem and Trump is a symptom of the problem. And that's why I think we have to be careful about any of these organizations. We shouldn't just be blindly believing any well-funded organization like Cold Pink, or not Cold Pink, I should say. Cold Pink is they haven't really been wrong on issues of war. So
yeah, well, if you look at like Medea Benjamin's latest statements regarding the election, she does have a bit of TDS, but the thing is, it doesn't cloud her activism, which I give her more credit for than most.
Exactly. Like, I don't expect, so I'm a firm believer in the idea that not every activist understands politics. Not every politico is active enough or concerned enough to be an activist, but they see things from an objective perspective that gives them some pretty astute analysis and a clear view of what's going on. It's very, 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 very rare that you find an activist, politico, journalist, like where all of this stuff, the inner workings of politics, the policy side of politics, and the desire to explain this and help others understand that converge. It's very, very rare. In fact, I would almost suggest that it's a new phenomenon that we're only seeing in the last couple of years. Our channel's full of it. You and Steve are great about that. Whitney Webb, the entire Gray Zone crew, with maybe one exception I could think of, but even they do really great work if they're not doing activism stuff. So like, it's rare to see that. And so, you see people take advantage of the false conflation of just because you're a popular organizer, just because you're a popular activist, even if you're considered to be a champion on this one key issue, does not mean you understand politics. It's not the same thing.
Yep.
But the Sunrise Movement, and to a far, far lesser degree, Coping, to same degree, Working Families Party, Our Revolution, what it's become, to the point where individual chapters of Our Revolution is separated from Our Revolution, which is interesting. But these nonprofit organizations were set up like this on purpose, like to make it so that if you've ever created anything successful in the nonprofit realm, we can take you over. Medea Benjamin isn't in charge of Code Pink anymore. The Green Party is a shell of itself. The Sunrise Movement, I don't even recognize them anymore. This is you see this, like, people start organizations like Our Revolution and they cannot understand. They think that like Bernie may have went in with the intention of purposely trying to like undermine the organization that he started to support him. You think that Bernie would like wanted to have to court Our Revolution Massachusetts for their endorsement of him from his organization? They were legitimately trying to figure out if they were going to endorse Warren or Bernie. It's his organization. Do you think he wanted to? No, people just, they don't understand. And when I've dabbled in the nonprofit like side where I try to like, oh, let me see if I can create a nonprofit. No, this is all sketchy, because every couple of years you got to change your board.
Yeah. You
got to change your employees, and it don't take but one or two ambitious people, one or two infiltrators, and you end up with the Our Revolution situation, Sunrise Movement situation, Working Families Party, where they pretend that they held a vote and they didn't. It was a lie. They didn't consider they didn't. So like, you're going to see that more and more. Jacobin as a news organization, TYT, all these organizations that people have been relying on to be objective, even for their cause, are falling short. And that was always the design. The leftist movements have historically been co-opted. Historically. Yeah. And that's not going to change.
The whole like COINTELPRO is still alive and well. Like, organizations still get infiltrated like regularly, and that's already compounded with the fact that the system, the nonprofit complex is set up with infrastructure to ensure that you get co-opted at some point. Like, all large movements get co-opted to a degree, and it's something that just you have to accept.
BLM,
and like
another one, Antifa,
Black Lives Matter.
Antifa. It's not what it was whenever it was created. The organization that was created to defeat Mussolini and Hitler. That's not what you're seeing right now. Some people who ascribe to those beliefs and that tradition from the 30s and 40s do consider themselves anti-fascists now, and they live by those principles. But that does not mean that we should assume that Antifa, who just showed up out of nowhere, was nowhere to be found during Obama years, nowhere to be found during Ferguson in Sandy Rock. Like, all of a sudden, that organization or that idea that is very well organized is the same like as the ones who fought every fascist. That doesn't make any sense.
Antifa is actually much smaller, like, just from, I can speak for like specifically, but like there's only like one group that legitimately calls themselves like Antifa or Anti-Fascist Coalition. The rest are like other groups that come using the black bloc tactic, which is when they, dress up in all black with all masks. Yeah. And they're normally at every protest just to like serve as shields and just to be on the front lines. But like Antifa in LA at least is like small. Like, it's nowhere near.
Antifa in Miami and South Florida is damn near non-existent, but yet somehow stuff that was happening at protests was being thrown on the shoulders of all of Antifa. And I'm like, that's just a really convenient narrative. Like, and I don't believe, like, just like they were throwing out, like, don't. And what they do is they're throwing it at the idea of, and the reason they say, in my opinion, Antifa, like, is the same reason that they tried to generalize about BLM in those same segments, right? If you just say Antifa, people are like, okay, Antifa's a terrorist. But when you think about it and you say it all the way, like, it's hard to be against anti-fascism. Why would anyone be against that? But it's because the idea that has been propagated of Antifa is kind of what both sides of the establishment have wanted. That's why I've always said that Antifa is beneficial to both sides of the establishment, and they know it. Just like Proud Boys came out of nowhere and was beneficial to both sides of the establishment. Came out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
It's not a coincidence.
Well, and the solution for both of those is to just straight up like enhance the security state. Like with, like we got to crack down on Antifa, or we got to crack down on the Proud Boys. So obviously the answer to this domestic terrorism surge is to give some more, like, here, DHS, have some more money. Here, FBI, have some more money. Like, why don't we just censor more people while we're at it too, and throw that in there? And that'll be the great solution to this surge in domestic terrorism from, insert Proud Boys / Antifa here. And it's the same solution on both sides, which is how you know that, like, both of these groups have narratives that are actually bigger than them.
And matter of fact, because think about it like this too. So we knew the curfews were coming, but you couldn't use, like, oh man, COVID in Republican states. They were already out in the streets before George Floyd. They wanted to go back to the north. So you couldn't do that. So the only way really to get Republicans to also support curfews and not hurt themselves with the constituency, because at the end of the day, let's be real, it's about control, and the Democrats and Republicans both want that. They just use different tactics to achieve that control. The best way to get them to this is riots and looters. And what did Joe Biden do? He joined that narrative.
Yeah.
People forget that. He joined that narrative. Along with Donald Trump. Kamala, same thing. So did Pelosi. And so all of a sudden, now, riots and looting, and support the police. And hold up. That's weird. So you were on our team whenever Black Lives Matter, was just, you tweet something out and then you get killed randomly by a cop. Like, that's the only time Black Lives Matter matters to them, apparently, because when you actually seek for the accountability side, in whatever form that may come, now it's, well, hold on, let's think about the people who committed the atrocities. Let's think about them. Keep them in our thoughts and prayers also. Like, no, bro. But when Trump and Biden agree on something, it's some foo-foo lies. They both don't like, except for in the one weird scenario where all of a sudden Joe Biden loves Antifa. It's an idea. No, Antifa actually it better be an organization, or else they're not Antifa. Because Antifa wasn't even an organization. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's perfectly fine.
Well, not to mention, and like one thing that just I try to tell people on the ground, especially when it comes to like, Black Lives Matter activism, is like, whenever there's fear mongering about like the other side or the Proud Boy Nazi, narrative, I'm just like, listen, the answer to this is not censorship. If you think the answer to this is to enhance the national security state, which is naturally designed to put its boot down on Black and brown people first, that is definitely not the answer, because 100%. The most, as annoying as racists are, the most dangerous racist isn't like, on the streets with the Proud Boys wearing some khaki suit. No, the most dangerous racist is in the FBI and the DHS, because they're the ones that can actually weaponize it to literally kill us.
Yep.
So
Breonna Taylor, that's literally what it was. It was a gentrification project, or what they call a revitalization project, where that police force was specifically put together to get the Black people out of those neighborhoods. And she was killed. And that's why she wasn't tried. Or that's why her cops were not tried and convicted. They were given a pass because they did their job. And that's what people don't get. And all of this stuff, like, you can't say Black Lives Matter and then support Joe Biden. But on the other side of the fence, don't be like, oh, I hate the deep state. I'm so pro guns. I'm so pro 2A. And then be like sucking off the cops. Like, they're not here to keep y'all in check too. Yeah, they're cool during this BLM shit, right? Because y'all all like, yeah, we hate Black people too. Yeah, kill them all. Blah, blah, blah. Until it starts going down the next couple months. because it's about to go down. Do you see these Trump protests? Now, funny enough, in some instances I've seen where like even the cops are on the whole like election fraud bandwagon. They're like, yeah, we actually support this because you know they did largely support Trump, so I guess that makes sense. But just like with BLM, it ain't only gonna be those cops there if the protests do get too wild. It'll get ugly. And I see it's funny because I see a lot of MAGA people talking about peaceful protests, like I'm all about activism. I really don't care what it looks like, as long as it's, you know, the goals are real. Because like, I'm not gonna police people's protests. Like,
thank you.
I hate like that's such a dumb idea. Like, let's protest within reason, because everybody listens to reasonable people. That's when the most change in this country has happened. No, be unreasonable as shit. Like, I don't care, but like, understand now. You got to understand with that, like the inherent in the idea of a protest is that you are going against the grain and going against status quo and going against the establishment. There's going to be consequences that you have to be that are in the gray area that you're going to have to deal with, and that's something that you have to also accept with that. Which is why I take protests very, very seriously, and the work that, you know, Paz and Fiorella and Johnny have done. And I know you've been out to a lot of protests. Like, people gotta say, like, that's not a game, bro. Like, you're playing with your life the moment you step out onto a protest, on both sides of that fence. And so, but if you're going to support things like 2A, what's the point of supporting things like 2A and call out the deep state and talking about the cabal and the swamp, if you're just going to capitulate to the cabal and the swamp and the police state? I don't understand. What's the point?
People who think they're anti-deep state are literally cheering on an administration that has Mike Pompeo fourth in line for president. So
right now, I will give Trump credit for this though, and I'm going to cover this a little bit later. But apparently, he fired somebody that was super pro-Afghanistan and put in somebody who was like very anti-Afghanistan war, and now CNN is tripping off of it. I was watching Jimmy's show from last night about it, and like. And now they're talking about potentially firing Gina Haspel. And
I'm down with that.
And like CNN was upset because they're like, Trump's already removed 50% of the countries from Afghanistan. So irresponsible. I'm like,
I mean, listen, I still think Trump's a tool of the national security state. But I mean, if he wants to go ahead and, you know, declassify everything just to soothe his own ego, by all means.
This is the good thing. This is what I was thinking, right? Now, first of all, like, people should understand, like, it would be so much better for business if Joe Biden was president. Because Biden is just a walking case of Niko has been right about everything. Trust me, as much as I would love to hear that all day, every day, like, I also don't want people to damn suffer in silence, because that's effectively what will happen if Joe Biden becomes the president. Now, also on the other side of that fence, the other positive that could happen is that Trump goes nuclear. I'm declassifying everything. I'm bringing everybody home. He just put another official in who is anti-Syria war and wants to get the troops from Syria home. So if Trump goes nuclear like that, where he just starts bringing everybody home and, you know, screw these regime change wars and free Assange and pardon everybody. Hey, bro. I mean,
be my guest.
That's different. And I'll tell you this too, though. It does also, and I said that was a possibility, maybe not in this particular term, but if he won again, he would be kind of untethered to the GOP establishment. So he would kind of start doing things his own way more so than he did. Now, although he's a tool, he's like kind of like a rusted, crusty, not really all that effective tool of the establishment. He's ineffective when it comes to most things, and that's why, like, I prefer him than the incompetent imperialist. I didn't vote for him. I won't go put blood on my hands. But at the same time, he's in the last 2 months, he's better than Biden, and that's sad, if anything. But it's the truth nonetheless.
Yeah, the bar is pretty low, but
pretty low. Pretty low. The limbo bar you ain't getting under that limbo bar. You can walk over it. But anyway, I just first of all, thank you, Glory, for coming on. I appreciate it. For everybody else, make sure y'all go subscribe to Glory and Steve's channel Slow News Day, and follow Glory on
And
Twitter.
we have a website as well.
They have a website too.
Yeah, we have a website. Shout out Sleepy J. He killed it with this website. We have like the New York Times font and everything on it just to mess with people. It's slownewsdayshow.com.
Good stuff. So go check out slownewsdayshow.com. Also, if you want to become a premium member of our YouTube channel and get access to our live streams after the live streams are done, just click on the join button. Like I said we're going to create another option for people to become premium members, just in case they want to keep all their subscriptions centered on like YouTube, or some people have them all on Patreon. Some people have them all on Rockfin now, or just one on Rockfin. But we want to give people that opportunity. Now, obviously, you also have the ability to catch our Rockfin premium shows every Thursday. You can scan any of these QR codes and join our Rockfin premium show. That's always a great time. We talk about, I know we get crazy in here, but we go crazier on Rockfin Premium. A lot more F-bombs too. Definitely a lot more F-bombs. Ellie JJ, thank you very much for the super chat. And Ellie was our very, very first YouTube premium member. So really appreciate you. So make sure I go subscribe to Slow News Day with Glory and Steve. Make sure that y'all follow Glory on Twitter. The link is in the description below. Glory, you gotta get a better Twitter handle, bro. Okay? It's Glory 985. That's basically your Twitter handle. Got make that a little bit more marketable. Free assigned. Somebody's in the comments just said free assigned. So definitely always bring attention to assigns wherever possible. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for tuning into that live stream segment of Mikasa and Sukasa. And always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace.